Hi there, everybody, and welcome to another mediumship clinic with me, Martin Twycross. An opportunity to ask any questions you have on any topic related to mediumship, development, spiritualism, etc. So welcome to those who've already joined us. And if you want to say hello, type in the chat box. To be able to type in the chat box or ask a question, you will need to be signed into either Google or YouTube. So that's an important aspect of it. The way it works in the class is you can bring your questions, pop them in chat, and I'll work my way through them one at a time. If you would like to get your question answered sooner, you can always make a small donation through Super Chat, which is a $sign on the bottom of the box, and I'll move to your question next. If you want to support the channel, you can do that as well by subscribing. You can like this video, and also you can use the Super Chat, Super Thanks, and there's also a PayPal Me link in the description and in the comments. And it's also pinned to the top of this stream if you would like to make a small donation to buy me a coffee. That is always appreciated. So, hoping everyone's well. I hope you're all hearing me loud and clear. If you are, just let me know that everything's okay. I did have a few technical gremlins before we began. The whole program crashed with about 10 minutes to spare before it started, so I've had to reboot the whole thing, and fingers crossed it's all working. From my end, it looks like it's all okay, but of course the proof is in the pudding of whether you can hear me okay. That's the key thing, isn't it? Now, I do have a couple of questions I want to talk about first, and then I'll get into the questions in the chat. So, the first question I was asked is that I sit in trance and I sit in the power. Sometimes when I sit and blend with spirit, my head keeps bobbing back, totally involuntarily, and it feels as if I've left my body after blending with spirits. Any thoughts on what this means? Now, I'm going to try and differentiate here between sitting in the power and also sitting in trance, because the two of them are a little bit different, actually. So that's the important thing to recognize. When we sit in the power, it's a lighter state. When we sit for trance, we're trying to go deeper. We're trying to allow spirit to blend with us. We're trying to allow spirit to control what is going on. So if you are hearing this loud and clear, don't forget to type in the chat box. I'm not seeing anything at the moment, which is a little bit worrying because that tends to suggest it's not working, but we'll keep going anyway. So sitting in the power. When we sit in the power, we can experience a whole range of things. And I would say whatever you get is unique to you. However, the power of spirit affects you is unique to you. Have I seen people drop their head forward, drop their head back? Absolutely. Do I recommend it? Not for sitting in the power. When we're sitting in the power, we should be in a state of, if you like, it's active relaxation, but we're aware of what's going on. And generally, we don't want anything like that to happen when we're sitting in the power. That's important to recognize. So normally when people sit in the power, you still have a degree of muscular control. All you're sitting to do is to blend with your own soul, and you're seeking to create a blend with the spirit and just stay actively blended with spirit. However, if you get too relaxed and fall asleep, your head will fall, absolutely. I've seen people fall asleep, and I always say sit at a time when you're least likely to fall asleep. Sit at a time when you're most awake. That's always recommended for sitting in the power. So certainly with sitting in the power, we want you to have a degree of control over the body so that you can maintain that erect posture. That's the best posture we need when sitting in the power. So sitting in the power, would you feel like you've left your body completely? No, you shouldn't. You should still be aware of your body to a degree, although the altered state means you can have lesser degree of awareness. But let's move to trance, because trance is totally different. In trance, we're seeking to surrender. In trance, we're seeking to move to a position where we allow spirit to blend closely, and we are seeking to, if you like, to relinquish control to the spirit world. And because of that, it is a form of surrender. And with trance, I've seen a huge range more of these types of things. I've seen mediums completely slump. Now, you often see those who are doing physical mediumship in deep trance completely slumped out of it as if they're asleep. Absolutely. And we have varying stages going from the lighter trance state through the medium to deeper trance states. And the energy of the trance can affect some people. Some people can sort of have a nodding action. Other people, we can have this nodding of the head forwards, backwards as well. But what it is it's not spirit creating it. Spirit doesn't do that to you. So people say, why did spirit do that to me? And it's like, no, they didn't. It's what happens in the energy. It's what happens when you're moving through different stages of the altered state. So it's important to recognize that spirit don't create it. Spirit wouldn't make you look crazy by nodding away. It's just how the energy is affecting you. What we can say to the spirit world is, can we move the energy to a level that we may stop this from happening? If you're aware of it happening, it's like, okay, spirit, can we change something? Can we move something? Can we stop this from happening? And generally, if you like, we're going through different levels of trance. If it happens at a certain point, the other thing to do is just accept it. And as you go through it, you'll find it will subside. But some people feel that that's when spirit is most close and they want to recreate it. So we have to be careful we're not trying to recreate it. But really, if it's happening to you and you are totally involuntary, not controlling it, you have little control over it, really, what can you do? All you can do is accept. All you can do is send the thoughts to the spirit world that, can we try and change the conditions so this doesn't happen? That's really the most we can do. Or we can seek to ask to be taken to a deeper state or a slightly lighter state to see if that changes things. Now, I've been in courses where people tell people off if things like that happen. And I think that's a little bit, well, I don't think it's particularly kind, to be honest. I've been in trance classes, trance circles, trance workshops, trance courses, where people have very strict expectations of what should and should not be happening. And the more experience I get is we have to keep a degree of freedom. That's the thing we have to think about, is that degree of freedom. Because nobody can deny you your experience. That's important to recognize. Nobody can deny you your own experience. What's happening to you is happening to you. And for me to tell you that it's not real would be stupid. It would be crazy. It wouldn't make sense. You're experiencing something. So I would just say, just accept it. If you find your head falls backwards, if you can, if it's possible to have something behind your head to prevent that from happening, that's ideal. Don't try and do trance laying down, certainly not. Trance is generally done in an upright chair, and it's quite likely most people, when doing trance, at some point their head will droop and drop. And often some people will say, try and have arms on the chair to stop you falling off either way. I have seen people collapse onto the arms of the chair, so it's good to have arms there. And again, this is at different stages in the trance state. And of course, whenever we're developing trance, we'll be exploring different levels, different stages. It's important to recognize that. So as I say, just accept, try and mitigate it as much as you can with physically with a chair, surroundings, or cushion, what have you. Whatever you can do to mitigate it will help. So the second follow-up question as well, and then I'll come on to the questions in the chat. So good to see Donnie, Deborah, Michelle, Lisa, lovely to see you. So the second question is, throughout the day, I feel the calling card from spirit I usually get when I blend. I usually get it when doing something. Why is it happening? Now, so what that means is the calling card, what we experience is when we blend with spirit, we may feel something that we're aware of within our energy. A common calling card can be a tightness around the head. My own personal calling card feels like a weight upon my shoulder, almost as if a hand has been rested upon my shoulder. That's kind of how it feels. Calling cards are often there more in the beginning because we need them more. The more we work with spirit, the less we become reliant upon the calling card. So that's what a calling card is. Now, if you're doing something, does it make sense that spirit would come close and try and blend with you? If I'm doing the washing up, does it make sense that spirit will try and come close? If I'm driving my car and I need full attention on the road, does it make sense that spirit would come close and try and blend with me, want me to blend with them? No, that would be a hazard to other road users for sure. So that does not make sense. So the thing is, spirit will come when we invite them, generally. However, if you're starting to move yourself into an altered state, if you're daydreaming or you're thinking about the spirit world or mediumship, then we can start moving to a point where we may be close to connecting. Generally, if I become aware of it, I'll think, okay, at some stage I need to sit and tune in and blend with my guides and see what needs to be done. Maybe I just need to be blended with them. They want me to blend with them more. Or maybe at times there may be something that needs to come through that I need to become aware of. But it doesn't mean that spirit want you there and then to blend with them. I would say don't go for that idea. Another thing what happens is with calling cards is we start going looking for them subconsciously. Not actively, consciously, but we enjoy being blended with spirit. We're aware of what the feeling is. And sometimes, if you like, our subconscious mind goes looking for it or can even actively recreate it. And spirit's not there. It's just that's the feeling we enjoy. And our subconscious mind can try and recreate that for us. So we've got to also understand that that's a possibility as well. So why is it happening? I don't know is the simple answer. If I had all the answers, it'd be great, wouldn't it? But I don't. But again, acceptance, but recognize it may be spirit, it may not be spirit, it may be your own mind not consciously creating it, but subconsciously creating it. So hopefully that answers those two questions. So welcome to Chris and to Ian. Okay, so let me come to the questions in the chat box and I'll work through them one at a time. First question from Donnie. My question is, why do some people have dream visitations and some don't? Shouldn't spirits be able to join our dreams with ease? Now, some mediums believe in dream visitations. A dream visitation being where spirit blend with you when you're asleep and you become aware of your loved ones in your dreams. And generally, for me, the real true spirit visits in our dreams, they have a different feel to them. When we wake up, it stays with us for a long time. Most dreams fall away very rapidly and we struggle to remember them unless we write them down in a dream journal. But when we've blended with spirit in our dreams, when we've been visited by our loved ones in our dreams, generally it feels powerful, it feels real, and it doesn't diminish. So I believe it happens. I know some mediums who say, well, it's in the dream state. How do you know? How do you know if it's real or if it's not? And I see their point of view. I get that because there is no proof that it really has happened. If I'm blending with spirit and I'm giving someone evidence and I'm giving them information and they can take it all and I get that validation, I know it's real. But if there is nobody to take the information or the validation, it can be a creation yet again of my own subconscious mind. And dreams in particular, we play out a whole bunch of stuff from our subconscious. It's natural that some of the memories we have of our loved ones will be played out yet again. So often when we have our loved ones in spirit in our dreams, it's not spirit blending with us at all. It's just the process of dreaming that takes place. Important to recognize that. But very occasionally, I believe that we do get visited by our loved ones in our dreams and it feels different. So I believe it can happen. How often does it happen? Well, I'm a working medium, I've been for 20 years. How often do I get my own loved ones in my dreams? It's not often. I'd be lucky if it was once a year, to be honest. So even as a medium capable of receiving spirit communication day in, day out, I don't get it very often. So that's important to recognize as well. So can spirit join us in our dreams easily? The answer is no. Why? Well, I'm not sure why. So one of the reasons is I think that there has to be, spirit are not allowed to interfere in this world a great deal. So I don't think they would want to be in our dreams 24/7. That's not going to happen. They understand, they want us to know that they're there around us. They want us to know they're still alive. So yes, there will be occasions when they can do it, but I don't think they're able to do it under natural law a great deal of the time. Who can receive it? Can anybody receive it? Or do you have to be have some degree of psychic awareness to receive it? That's another interesting question. People say to me, how come people feel their loved ones around their house and others can't? And the simple answer is they've developed a degree of psychic awareness where they can sense their loved ones. And some people don't have that. Now, I'm going to guess that maybe the same thing translates to spirit visitations in dreams as well. That if you haven't developed at all, the likelihood of it happening will be diminished. It's more likely if you have, but less likely if you haven't. But I just think in general, spirit don't do it very often. It's something very special. It's meant to be special. If it was happening all the time, well, how would we tell the real one from the one that's created by our own mind? We wouldn't. So I hope that that kind of gives some insights. I don't have all the answers. As I keep saying, I don't have all the answers, but I do hope that that helps. Okay, so next question, Michelle, do you believe in reincarnation? Well, it's a tricky question, this one. And I'll tell you for why, because it depends upon your definitions. And it depends on what we mean by reincarnation. If we talk about reincarnation as you're having an earthly life and it comes to an end and you get born into another earthly life and it comes to an end and you get born into another earthly life, I don't believe that. If you say, do you believe that I will have future lives? Absolutely. But where will those lives be? Will they be upon the earth plane? Or will they be in other worlds? Now, think about it. If you look out into the universe in which we inhabit, there are billions upon billions of galaxies and stars and planets. More than our minds could ever comprehend. We're aware of a number of planets, not very many, of which we already know one is inhabited because we are sat upon it at this moment in time, talking, communicating with each other. So it would make sense that there must be other physical worlds within this enormous physical universe that are capable of supporting life, that are capable of having a physical life. Obviously not an earthly life because that's not the earth. So there would be other planets for sure. In the spirit world, when we get to the spirit world, our life can be very much like the life here. If you like, it's just a recreation of mind. But there are many worlds within the spirit world which don't have to be physical worlds, but could be mental worlds. And I believe we will have life experiences there as well. I also believe in what's called the fragmented soul or group soul theory, which means that there is a greater soul of which parts fragment out and go off on their own journey, have their own lives, but the whole is accessible to all of us. And this explains past lives for me. This explains why we can access past lives. It explains why we can go places and it feels awfully familiar, even though we've never been there. So it's an explanation of past lives, but they're not our lives, but it's part of the group soul to which we belong, to which we can access. So I believe that each one of us is on our own individual journey through space and time as a discrete, unique individual. And because of that, I believe that we will spend time upon the earth, we'll spend time in spirit, and then we may go to other places. The question was asked of Silver Birch about reincarnation, and he said that it's very, very rare upon the earth. It's very rare for a soul to come back to the earth because there are many ways in which you can gain life experience. Say someone tried to come to the earth and there was a miscarriage, a stillbirth, or the child passed very young, few days old. I believe in those scenarios, that soul would be allowed a second chance to experience an earthly life. But for the majority of us who live a reasonable earthly life, there may not be the need for it. I don't believe in the Buddhist or the Hindu concept of constant reincarnation. That doesn't really fit for me. And I actually have given readings to both Buddhists and Hindus and brought through their loved ones from spirit, which is a little bit confusing because by rights they ought to have been born again, and they're not. So anyway, I won't go into it anymore, but that's kind of my view on reincarnation. I hope it helps you, or I hope maybe it's confused you even more, but hopefully it may open your mind to some possibilities. But I do not think it's as simple as we just keep having a hamster wheel of lives. That's way too simple for me. Chris, I did talk about the bobbing head, and I did talk about the calling cards. So sadly, you'll have to catch it on the replay, I'm afraid. I talked about those two at the very beginning. Ian, I would like to know how to work with energy as I see like a smoke effect around me buzzing in left ear. Thanks. Now, I'm afraid, Ian, this is not a question I can answer. I can teach people how to do mediumship. I can teach people to develop their psychic awareness. But all I can recommend you do is you start going to circles, classes, courses, workshops, and try and develop your psychic awareness, try and develop your mediumship. You know, buzzing in the ears, in my experience, very rarely is it spirit. Invariably, it's other things. You know, many of us suffer from tinnitus and the like. And yeah, so, you know, it's not something I can't explain seeing smoke around people. I've never seen that personally. Again, it's you know, but I always say no one can deny you your experiences. But if you want to learn to work with the psychic and the mediumistic, you need to go to circles, classes, workshops, courses, and the like. Hopefully that helps you. Lisa, any suggestions for transferring from reading with tarot to channeling in front of small groups of people? So I don't do tarot, never have. So I don't bring any experience. I've seen some tarot card workers who work primarily psychically. I've seen other tarot card workers who work a mix of psychic and mediumistic, meaning some of it's connecting with spirit, some of it's just psychic. I don't know how you work, so I can't really talk with knowledge on that. Now, to be able to do mediumship for a group of people, then the way to do that is you need to learn to do mediumship in circles, classes, workshops, courses. You need to work for one person first to learn the process, the practicalities, and then we move to a wider group. Then we open it up. But if you don't learn mediumship, then it won't work. So I don't know how experienced you are in terms of learning mediumship, but that is the key. You've got to start learning mediumship and learn how to do mediumship well. Now, we have a saying, all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums. And what that means is that mediumship uses the psychic senses. Mediumship uses the psychic awareness, as does all psychic work. But the point is, with mediumship, we've got to learn to build power. We've got to learn to move our minds to the spirit world and hold the connection with the spirit world. So if we don't learn those techniques to do that, then we can't do mediumship. So, and then there's a discipline. When I'm doing mediumship, if I'm working in front of an audience, it's mediumship only. I'm not working psychically. The psychic is usually for a one-on-one reading. I don't do demonstrations in front of an audience, in front of groups of people that are psychic. That's me personally. In the UK, generally most demonstrations in front of groups of people, it is always mediumship. The psychic is frowned upon because when we're supposed to be linking with spirit and reuniting loved ones, if I start working psychically with people, spirit are not able to get through. I'm preventing spirit from coming through. But basically, to transfer from it, you need to be able to do it well on a one-to-one. And you need to learn the skills of doing that. It needs to be validated. And then you need to learn the skills of working in front of an audience, platform skills, as we call it. So at this point, I will just mention as well that I do have a number of courses available on my website. And a couple of those courses, there is one called Better Platform Mediumship, and that's all about working in front of an audience, all about doing platform mediumship. There's also one on Better Private Readings, which is all about how we do mediumship in readings. So I also have those courses are 4 classes, each lasting about 2 hours. So it's quite a lot of content. I go probably into most detail on those topics in those courses. I also have a number of videos, and the videos, if you like, are a quick 2-hour dive into that topic. So there is one on platform skills. Mediumship class 11 is on platform skills. Mediumship class 10 is on private sittings. The courses I've just mentioned go into a lot more detail because there's 4 times the teaching content versus these videos. But if you want a quick overview, the videos will give you that. So Mediumship Class 11 goes into platform skills in a bit of detail. When we work, also I should say as well, actually, when we work in front of an audience, we need to find our recipient, Class 7. Class 7 is all about finding the recipient. There's different ways of doing it. We can throw it out, we can go direct, we can go to an area. That's important as well. So knowing the different techniques, knowing the skills of how to narrow it down to people when there's several taking it. If I'm working in front of an audience of 50 people and I throw out generics, I'm in trouble. So it's knowing what you've got to do to get down to one person. It's knowing also where the energy in the room is, understanding that some people might be trying to take it. It doesn't belong there. We've got to make sure that we can help get it there. So there's a whole bunch of skills that are needed. So I go into all of that in a great deal of detail in the course and those videos as well, if that's of interest to you. So I hope that kind of gives you a starting point. And certainly, a lot of people I know can do mediumship on one-on-one, but they don't know how to do it well in front of an audience because they don't know what the difference is in terms of the tools, the skills needed to work in front of an audience. So hopefully that helps. So next question, Lily. How do you become conscious of when you are getting messages? Now, I'm not sure what you mean by this in terms of whether you mean how do you know when you're linking with spirit, or whether you mean how do you know when you're getting a message within a contact, within information coming from spirit. How do you know where the message is? So if you want to just type in the chat box which of those two it is. How do you know when you're receiving information from spirit, full stop, or how do you know where the message is within the reading? Let me know which one it is and I'll come back to it for you. So Funky Fresh, I was able to get quite a few pieces of evidence in a practice session online, but felt the connection was weak. How do I strengthen the incoming claircognizance so the information is solid? Okay, Lily, I've just seen your question when you're getting a message. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that one because it was asked first. So we receive information from the spirit world and we ask them to give us evidence so they can be recognized. Once they're recognized, then you have an option. You can say to them, why are you here? Bring through why you're here. And that's when I'd be looking for the message. If I'm looking for evidence, generally, I'm going to be getting evidence. If I'm looking for a message, I'll be getting a message. But so that's the key. That's the first point, is what are we asking spirit for? If we just let spirit give us stuff, we don't know. So normally the way I work is I want information that demonstrates who it is. When I feel we're there and we've demonstrated who it is, I say, okay, time to be reunited with your loved one. What do you want to share? What do you want to bring through? And then the message will usually unfold from that. Again, it depends where you are in your own mediumship as to how you're working and how you perceive it and whether you're able to perceive the information well and understand it well. When you become more advanced, there's what I call the message within the evidence. If we allow spirit to control the entire reading, if I don't say, who are you? What's your relationship? What's your age? What's your passing condition? That's me controlling it all. If I just let spirit bring what they need to bring, generally, we get what's called a message within the evidence. It will unfold into a meaningful story and the message will start to unfold from it. And for me, the message, certain parts of evidence really stand out and lift out. It's almost like they've got, flashing lights on them. And it's not quite like that, but it's like they are, if they're text, they would be bolded or highlighted. It's just something about the piece of information. I energetically feel it stands out. And I know that that forms part of the message. Sometimes there isn't a message. It's just, I'm so happy to be able to communicate. But if you work all the time and say there isn't a message, then people will get the hump with you, because most people want a message. Most people want to hear from their loved ones and they want it to be a meaningful message. But we've got to ask for that message. That's the key point. First of all, ask. Secondly, open to receive. Thirdly, watch how the reading unfolds, the link unfolds, and see if we can work out where the message is within it. So as I say, certain bits of evidence stand out. And over time, when you've done quite a lot of links, sometimes you'll see patterns emerge where certain types of links become quite similar, and you feel the energy, and I know this is an apology message. I know this is a message of wanting to say I love you. That certain aspects with time experience will come forwards. So hopefully that all makes sense. So if you are enjoying this so far, then remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. If you want to support the channel, remember, do check out my courses, videos, study program that I offer, all available from my website, martintwycross.com. And also you can support the channel by using Super Chat, the Super Chat or the Super Thanks if you're watching this on the replay. And you can also support the channel by buying me a coffee through PayPal Me. There is a link for the PayPal at the very top of the chat box. If you want to get your question asked next, you can use Super Chat. You can click on the Super Chat, which is the $ at the bottom of the chat box, make a small donation, and I will prioritize your question as the next one. If you're short on time, that's one way to do it, rather than waiting for me to work through in order. Otherwise, we just go in order. Okay, next question. And so, Funky Fresh. I was able to get quite a few pieces of evidence in a practice session online, but felt the connection was weak. How do I strengthen the incoming claircognizance so the information is solid? So whenever we work, basically our mediumship is highly variable. We need to recognize that. Wherever we are on our development journey, in the early stages, it's even more variable. As we become more experienced and developed, there's less variability with it. But every link is variable. I don't know where you're at in terms of your development, but I'm assuming that you're in the relatively early stages. So there's three key things here. First one is, are you connecting well with spirit? In my experience, vast majority of beginners do not connect well with spirit. Then they don't get a good blend and hold it. They touch the spirit world and fall away, and touch the spirit world and fall away, touch the spirit, fall away. Experienced mediums get a link and hold it there. When they start to feel themselves move, they hold it there again. So that's important to recognize. So you need to hold the link, blend the link. To make sure we still stay connected with spirit, we usually keep talking. Silence will take you away from the connection. So first of all, you've got to be connected. Secondly, you've got to be developed. Your mediumship has to develop. Now, there aren't any easy techniques for developing mediumship and strengthening it other than practice. And the other technique we'll recommend all the time is something along the lines of sitting in the power, where we sit and blend with spirit, make ourselves accessible to spirit, create an attunement with spirit, which replicates having to hold the link during mediumship. Is exactly what you're doing during mediumship. You're holding that link. So in terms of creating that blending, when you're sitting for spirit, sitting in the power, you're just basically replicating what's needed. And the irony is when we sit and blend with spirit and we're not actually looking for communication, we're not actually looking to do a great deal, but we give spirit an opportunity to get to know us. And by being blended in the power of spirit, it allows the gifts within us to unfold. So sitting in the power is a very powerful tool for strengthening your mediumship. But if the link is weak, then it can also be a weak spirit communicator. You may not be a good match energetically for that communicator. If we assume that radio stations, each spirit is a radio station, where a radio receiver, maybe your dial doesn't quite go that far. You can't get blended quite well enough, and that happens regularly as well. What can you do about that? Sit in the power, develop, practice. It will broaden the spectrum that you can work on. That's important to recognize. But really, practice is the key. I wish I could say there's a tool, a technique that will do that for you. And the simple answer is there isn't. There isn't a simple tool that will do that. There isn't a shortcut or quick fix. So I wish I could give you a simple answer, but I can't. But in my experience, when I see people and it's weak, It's not working brilliantly as well as they would like. It's not as solid as they would like. Generally, they haven't built enough power. They're not sat to build power for spirit. They don't connect well with spirit. They don't hold the connection with spirit. Those are three most common things I see. So hopefully that all makes sense. And if you're interested in learning about how to connect with spirit, I cover that in my Fundamentals of Mediumship course. There's a video, one of my videos, Mediumship Class 3 is Connecting with Spirit. Well, Class 2 is Building Power and Sitting for Spirit. Class 3 is Connecting with Spirit. They would help for sure. In my study program as well, it's all covered in Module 1, Sitting in the Power, Building Power, Sitting for Spirit, and Connecting with Spirit. It's all part of Module 1 if you're interested in that as well. Study program just goes into a lot more depth, adds tutorials, gives a lot more detail. And each module is five videos that you can see on the screen, plus 5 associated tutorials with about 30 questions where I drill into the content in a lot more detail, plus suggestions for how to work with it. So I hope that helps answer that question. Now, Janet, thank you very much for your super chat donation. That is much appreciated. Do you have a question? I'm looking for a question from you. Yes, there we go. I would love to learn from you. Please share where I should start this journey. So the way it works, the way I teach is that most of my teaching is mainly theoretical teachings. I don't run circles, classes yet. I may do in the future, but I don't at the moment. So basically, the way I'm very passionate about the theory of mediumship. What I find is that you can go to a lot of classes, workshops, courses, and they don't tell you how to do it. You're given an opportunity to practice, but you don't know what you're meant to be practicing. You don't know how to connect to the spirit world. You don't know how to get into the power of spirit. You don't know how to receive information in the early stages. And I like to give a lot of that theoretical knowledge that everybody can take away and apply in their own practice circles, on courses, on workshops. Just give you the foundations of how mediumship works, of how it's meant to be used, and you can take that knowledge and work with it. And many people have said that the teachings I offer, the theoretical teachings, give them an amazing foundation that's really helped them and speeded up the development process for them enormously. So if you'd like to learn from me, you're really looking at the courses that I offer, of which there are currently 8. If you want to start out, I normally recommend people start with meditation and sitting for spirit, followed by fundamentals, followed by getting better evidence. They're the 3 foundational courses of mediumship. And then as you get more advanced, you can look at private readings, platform mediumship. There's other topics, the confident medium for those who have confidence challenges, spiritual self-development, which is really about allowing ourselves to become more spiritual throughout our lives, which is a very powerful one. People develop mediumship, but they don't become very spiritual, and that's a mistake. The more spiritual you are, the better your mediumship will be, for sure. So it's a part that's not to be neglected. So that you can do it through the courses. As I said earlier on, there's a whole series of videos. There's 24 videos that cover different aspects of mediumship. Classes 1 to 12 kind of give a pretty solid foundation. And the study program just takes all of those videos and works through it in a much more structured way and adds an associated tutorial for every class. So for Module 1, there's 5 classes there. Each one then gets an associated tutorial. Each tutorial is about 2 hours. Each class is about 2 hours. There's 10 classes within Module 1. That's 20 hours of tuition. And each tutorial typically answers, 20, 30 questions on each topic. And I give you suggestions for how to work with it as well. So that's my flagship program. But I would say parts of the courses like getting better evidence, better private readings, and better platform medium drill into even more depth on those topics than my study program. Similarly, the study program doesn't cover confidence in mediumship. So I would say the fundamentals of mediumship, that course is a parallel. If you're going to buy the study program, don't buy that because the material is practically the same. So that's what I offer, if that helps anybody. So where should you start the journey? By all means, check out what I offer, check out the theoretical teachings. Then you need to join a circle, a course. You can do it online or in person. If there's nothing locally, online is good. And then you just need to basically get experience, practice. And I highly recommend people sit in the power. Sitting in the power is a very profound tool for development. I've got a whole playlist on sitting in the power that I recommend. 4 videos, why you should do it, how to do it, common issues encountered by beginners, and common issues encountered by those more experienced. Plus, I also have a short version of Sitting in the Power available on my channel and a longer version available to buy. So I highly recommend Sitting in the Power as well. So hopefully that gives you a starting point. I sincerely hope so anyway. Okay. Debbie, I won't be coming to Earth again. It's too challenging. Well, the thing is, we learn most when we're challenged. It's the challenges of life that make us become more aware of our spiritual nature. It's the challenges of life. Silver Birch always said it's the challenges of life that forge the soul. The soul gets forged in the fire of challenge. So should we expect an easy time when we go to the spirit world? Should we expect any future life experiences to be easy, a bed of roses? I would say no. We're only going to learn when we go through challenge. Some people thrive on challenge, some people don't. But I'm afraid to say I believe that we will be facing challenge. Peter, thank you very much for your super chat. That is a very kind donation. That's much appreciated. Is there a question to go with it? Let me just scroll. I'm not seeing it, but if you have a question, pop it in the chat box. Okay. Sabu, is sitting in the power similar to build up the feeling of love in the heart center? Fill the room with it and later on blend it with the love of spirit. It's an aspect of it. The way I teach sitting in the power is that we connect with our own soul first, and then we connect with the spirit world. But in doing so, it's all based on a foundation of love as well. So we can sit there, we can expand out the light, the love, and the power of our own soul. So it's an aspect of it, but sitting in the power is a particular type of attunement meditation where we blend with our soul and then we stay blended in our soul and we move to blend with the spirit world. And anytime we lose the attunement, the blending, we rebuild it. If you don't rebuild it, you move into what I call a relaxation meditation. Or effectively, it won't do a great deal for your development. I see a lot of people sit, they start the blending process, then they get distracted, then they just go off and do their own thing. And sadly, that just won't develop you because, you know, I'll go to it in a lot more detail if you check out the playlists. But the whole point is we're in a state of attunement. It's like an active concentration. It's you're not totally relaxing and letting it go. It's important to recognize that. But yeah, I'd say that, you know, when we're blending with our own soul, we can bring in the love of the heart center, and then we can take that and blend with spirit. Absolutely. But that's not all it is. That's an aspect of it, but there's a great deal more. So there's a similarity, but it's not just that, if that makes sense. So Deborah, what is your view on elevating your personal vibration? Now, the problem with the question is I'm not necessarily sure what you mean. You know, whenever we work with the spirit world, we need to raise our vibration. The spirit world is at a higher frequency of vibration than this world. So when I move my mind to the spirit world, I heighten my vibration. So that's important to recognize. You know, when I'm connecting to spirit, I have to move into an altered state. When I connect to spirit, I have to become excited and energized. And we're moving our awareness, we're moving our vibration. So that's happening anyway as a part of mediumship. That's an important part of it. If you try and do mediumship from your conscious mind, it won't work. If you try and just do mediumship from your subconscious mind, you'll be able to work psychically, but you'll not be able to do mediumistic work. When we work doing mediumship, it's from the subconscious where the psychic works, but it's also an energized, active, empowered state where we're energized, we're full of energy, we're seeking to blend with spirit. So that's important to recognize. Then, so you're saying the importance of for ourselves. So what does elevating your personal vibration mean? Now, there's a lot of new age stuff. And as many of you know, the strapline of my channel is bringing you practical, down-to-earth teachings on mediumship and development without the fluff, without the nonsense, without the airy-fairy stuff. I don't do airy-fairy, I'm afraid. I'm too down-to-earth for that. I've got a very logical background. I've got a very scientific background. I did a degree and master's in science topics. So I've got a very scientific mind in my logical conscious state. When I do mediumship, I've got to park all of that and go and blend with the subconscious. So, you know, when people talk about raising our vibration, I think they're talking about becoming more spiritual. That's what I'm assuming people mean. As I say, I do have a course on spiritual self-development, which I personally feel is one of my most important courses that I offer. I really do. It's very profound. You know, you come here as a soul. You're a spirit being trapped within a physical body, walking this planet, having an earthly experience, but fundamentally, you're that soul. That soul is eternal. That soul carries great knowledge. That soul, it carries the most amazing spiritual qualities. What we need to be able to do is to tap into it, bring those qualities forward and bring them into our lives. We need to live our lives from a more spiritual viewpoint. When we do, if you were to do the spiritual self-development course, I have a whole bunch of what I call soul-searching questions that I've developed about. You can use it in your life to connect with the soul and ask these questions about any situation, about anything that's happening in your life. And it enables you to tap into the spiritual aspect of self. You know, does this act or choice empower me, or does it limit me? Is it coming from the ego? Is it coming from the soul? Is it empowering me as a human being and a soul, or is it limiting me? So you've got all those different aspects going on. So absolutely, you've got to raise your vibration. And as I say, I meet a lot of people on this path who don't develop spiritually. They learn mechanics of connecting to spirit, but they don't learn the philosophy. They don't learn the spiritual path. They don't walk the spiritual path. We have to do that. So yeah, I hope that helps. It's important we do develop ourselves spiritually, or as some people would say, raise our own personal vibration. Although that's not terminology that you generally get out of my mouth, but I understand it. Hopefully that it's helpful. Michelle, that helps. Learning about mediumship caused me to wonder about reincarnation, and your answer makes sense. I'm glad you find it helpful. Lisa, mediumship is definitely a part of my tarot readings. Well, that's good. Then you just need to transition those skills into doing, I would then say, do pure mediumship readings without the tarot. Park the tarot, pure mediumship readings, and then transition those skills of pure mediumship readings to then doing gallery readings, readings in front of an audience. That's what I'd recommend. Bethany, thank you, Martin. I just took your ethics and responsibilities of mediumship this past week, and it was excellent. Thank you, Bethany. That's very kind of you to say. That is class 9, the ethics and responsibilities of mediumship. I also do have a couple of videos on my channel where I talk about the ethics of mediumship and good and bad practices in mediumship as well. So do check those out as well. There's a couple of interviews I did with Colleen Barham for her Evidential Mediumship Facebook group. So you can check those out as well. You'll get a lot of information on it. Chris, the certification program, is that all theory and how to find a place to practice? So yeah, my Course in Mediumship study program is a theoretical program. It has 4 modules. There is a certification available if you do modules 1 to 3. Each module is about 40 hours. So by doing modules 1 to 3, you get 120 hours training and you get a certificate to say you've completed that. And to get that, you have to submit class notes as well to show you've interacted with the material. So it is a theoretical program. I don't certify anyone to say they're a medium. And giving you a certificate, all I'm saying is that you've followed the content, you've engaged with the content, and through your class notes, you've showed me that you understand it and you've learned from it. It's a self-reflection program with the class notes where you highlight what means most to you, and you highlight how can you implement it in your own development and what you'll do differently. Self-reflection, very, very powerful way of doing it. But there isn't a practical element. The idea is that people are all at different stages of development. Some people are absolute beginners, some are intermediate, some are advanced who do the program. So each person can integrate it into their own practice environment, wherever that may be, whether that may be in circles and classes within churches or centres, whether that may be online classes, whether that may be courses that they attend or wherever, at the Arthur Findlay College or anywhere in the States. So you can integrate it. That is the theory. But there isn't any practice within it, I'm afraid. But the idea is that I encourage people doing it to get their own practice. And the feedback on it has all been very positive. There's a whole pages of feedback on my website. And yeah, touch wood, it's all been positive today. Okay. So Lisa, thank you very much for your super chat donation. That is much appreciated. Let me come to your question. Do you recommend sitting in the past on days when we plan to attend circle or class later that day, or should we save it for circle class? No, you should, in an ideal world, sit in the power every day, in an ideal world, regardless of whether you're doing classes or not. If someone's going to do sit in the power in the class, then yeah, you don't need to do it twice in one day. But if you're not going to be doing sit in the power in the class, then yeah, do it yourself at your own time. It's good if you like to make an appointment with spirit. It's good to say, okay, when's my good time? My good time is, and yeah, everyone's different. Some first thing in the morning, some last at night. If you're a night owl, you may choose to do it after lunch if you're able to do it. You choose a time in the day that you're alert, and you try and make that commitment to sit daily. Now, not everyone can, because we all have busy lives. In which case, find a time when you're alert and try and sit maybe 3-4 times a week. You should really be sitting at least weekly. If you go less than weekly, it's not really going to be worth your while, to be honest. So you do need to be doing that. But then, yeah, if you're going to be attending class and the teacher's going to get you to sit for spirit, sit in the power, do you need to do it twice? No. How long do you need to do it for? As long as you feel you're getting benefit. Some people do it for 10 minutes, 15, 20. Some do for half an hour. Some sit for an hour. An hour is unusual in my experience. Most people, when they're experienced with it and can do it themselves without the instructions, generally tend to do it somewhere between the 10 minutes to half an hour mark. But yeah, but then again, it becomes addictive, so you might want to spend more time there. Absolutely, I get that. So no, you don't have to save it. You can do it as often as you wish. Hope that helps. Debbie, I totally agree about walking the spiritual path. I would struggle if I didn't have belief in a higher meaning. Absolutely. For me, all this work is God's work. And I remember being on a course with Mavis Batillo where she taught that her affirmation was, I'm about my Father's business, meaning it's doing God's work when we're doing mediumship. Never forgot that. Okay, where did I get to with the questions? Axis 68. In your opinion, when watching others work, what are the main telltale signs a person claims to be working mediumistically is actually working psychically? Now, I have a video for this on my channel, funnily enough, and it's called, Is it Psychic or Is it From Spirit? So that runs for about, 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to point you in the direction of that video for the full detail. But I'm just going to give you a brief overview. Now, telltale signs, if it's all about the person, then it's generally psychic. If it's all about the spirit communicator, then generally it's mediumistic. That's obvious, isn't it? But whenever we're working, remember there's always a psychic connection, always a psychic link. And We're going to receive information from the person's energy. If I'm working with someone and I say, I've got your mum here, and they go, oh, so wonderful. I can feel in their energy the nature of the relationship they had with their mum. And I'm getting that psychically. Like they were close, but I'm getting it psychically. Mum didn't necessarily give me that. It's just the nature of the response. Even if you were to argue that it could be cold reading, you're watching the body language and they're getting so energized and excited, you know. Or you bring someone through and you go, you haven't got, it's not even psychic. You can just watch their body language to know challenging relationship that was. It's going to need care. So, yeah. So psychically, we're always going to get information psychically. Now, when we're working, how do we know whether it's mediumistic or psychic? They have a different feel. That's the key. But if you're not experienced enough, you don't know what the feel is. Sometimes I see people work, they're struggling to make a spirit link and nothing's coming through. Then all of a sudden they're working and there's loads of information and it's flying and they're on a flyer. And it's all about the person in front of them. And spirit are telling me you've got problems with your job, and spirit are telling me that there's someone at work who's getting on your nerves. No, spirit are not telling you. Psychically, you've taken that information and you're receiving it and it's all flowing and you've dropped to the psychic. Mediumistically, you've got to be connected with spirit. Those who are experienced can see the link. They can feel the energy of the link. Teachers who are experienced, tutors can see that, feel that. And we can also link in at the same time sometimes. Sometimes you can piggyback the link as well and see what's happening. So you can see and feel the difference. Often people are working, I'll say to them, right, that bit is psychic. And they go, really? I say, yeah. And the speed was different. The energy was different. How you received the information and relayed it was totally different. So we're looking for differences. Some people will work very, very fast with spirit and it works brilliantly, and they struggle to do the psychic. It's not their bag. That was me initially. I loved working with spirit. Get me to work psychically, it was hard because it wasn't my zone of comfort. So I used to get a lot quickly, and then when I try to work psychically and do psychic work, it was struggles. Different now. I can do both now pretty well. But then there's other people who start by doing a lot of psychic readings. That's their comfort zone and it flows naturally and fast. But when they're linking with spirit, they're learning to do it. It's slow. It can be laborious. They may not be connected well. So yeah, that's generally the telltale signs of what we look for. But do check out the video. Is it psychic or is it from spirit? And that will give you even more information than I've just said. Hope that helps. Hey. Deborah, do you feel message circles are often more mediumship or psychic because of time restraints? Now, to be honest, I don't really know what message circles are because we don't have them in the UK. So could you do me a favor and just type in the chat box exactly what a message circle is? Is it where people are all sat in a circle and they just give a message to each other? And there's no real evidence that builds up of who's communicating that message? Or there's a time limit maybe for how long you're allowed to do the message for. It's a 2-minute thing. So in the UK, when we have circles, sometimes you have a circle whereby people will link with spirit and see what they get. And that can be a bit flaky at times because some people will just say a few things for a short period of time. Others will make a proper link and work 10 minutes with it. And yeah, and some people will, as you say, maybe move more to the psychic. And again, it all depends, what I was saying with the previous question, where people's comfort zones are. So I'm not massively sure I know what a message circle is. So if you want to enlighten me on that, that would help. It's not terminology I come across very often, to be honest. But obviously where you are in the world, it sounds like it's pretty common. Deborah, courses are fantastic, by the way. So glad you enjoyed them. And if you're interested in picking up any of my courses, as I say, I do offer 8 courses that drill into different topics. I do offer a series of 24 videos, and based on those videos, there is my study program with 4 modules. If any of that interests you, do check out my website, martintwycross.com. But I'm glad you're enjoying them, Deborah. So I'm not seeing a response, so hopefully you can answer that for me, and I'll come back to it in a second. Donnie, can our loved ones on the other side talk to our spirit guides, or aren't they allowed to interfere? Now, that's an interesting concept. They could talk to our spirit guides if they wanted to, but our spirit guides are not allowed to interfere in our lives much neither. There's limits on what spirit are allowed to do. Spirit, we've all got free will. We've all got personal responsibility. We've all got our own choices to make because it's our choices that determine the effects that we get in life. And, spirit will not control your life for you. They will give you advice. If you go to the spirit world for advice, they will offer advice. Same as you can go into your soul and look for advice, which is what I do talk about with my spiritual self-development course, is learning to blend and connect with the soul for advice. Your loved ones in the spirit world through a medium can give you advice. Could your loved ones in the spirit world go to your spirit guides to give you advice? Well, then how often are you blended with your spirit guides seeking advice from them, you see? And I reckon that the advice you get from your spirit guides would be more profound than your loved ones, generally. Because most regularly, for most people, most spirit guides are evolved souls. For me, the requirement for someone to be a spirit guide is someone who at some stage in their life has walked upon the earth, understands the limitations of the body, and understands the human existence. But beyond that, they're going to be developed souls with more wisdom, knowledge, spiritual development, life experience. So generally, the guidance we'd get from the guides, if you like, would trump the guidance you'd get from your own loved ones. So yes, they could talk to them, but the benefits would be more limited. That'd be my guess. So I don't know if that helps you with that question or not. Something's just fell off the wall. Lisa, thank you. I'm still a beginner, but I do dedicate for 15 minutes daily. That's wonderful. If you can create that time and commit, that's brilliant with sitting in the power. But the other thing to make sure is you're doing it right. In my experience, a lot of people spend time sitting and they're not really sitting or sitting well. So do check out my playlist on sitting in the power, and the one you want is number 3. The third video in that playlist, whose name escapes me, common problems encountered by beginners it is. Why Sitting in the Power's Not Working, part 1, it's probably called. One of these days, I must put a list on the wall of all my video titles. It would be helpful, wouldn't it? I could just look at it and tell you what the title is, rather than trying to remember from memory when I may have created it 2 or 3 years ago. Debbie, that's a beautiful quote from Mavis Patilla. That was Mavis Patilla's affirmation. So one tool we can use to help us connect with the spirit world is an affirmation. And the affirmation, if you like, just helps get us in the right energy of connecting with the spirit world. I am a medium is a very simple affirmation. I serve the 2 worlds in love would be an affirmation. Mavis's affirmation that she told, I remember telling me in a course, was I'm about my Father's business. That was her affirmation. That's what brought her closer to spirit and closer to God doing this work. But everybody has to find an affirmation that works for them. Within my mediumship class 3, connecting to spirit, within that course there, I do give several affirmations. I also offer affirmations as well on the Fundamentals of Mediumship course. Now, class 3 is also a part of module 1 of the study program as well. So I go through a whole range of different affirmations, and certainly in the study program, I encourage you to try and find your own affirmation. And that's what you really want to do. Look at other people's, see what resonates with you, and then try and take elements, try and see what makes your soul sing, and then create your own affirmation that helps you blend with the spirit world. That's what you want. Okay, where am I? Sean. I'm just beginning mediumship and I'm wondering how I distinguish whether it's spirit or my imagination when I try to connect and see people in guided meditations. Now, guided meditations are a challenge because by its very nature, a guided meditation will trigger the subconscious mind. And if I take you through a little meadow and I say you're going to, in the middle of the meadow, you'll sit and there's a bench there and someone will come and join you on the bench and you'll have an experience where you interact with them, whether that's a spirit person, a loved one for someone in the room, whether that's a guide. The problem is, if it doesn't happen, your own subconscious creates it. Your own imagination creates it. So it is a major problem. And I don't really encourage anybody to try and get meaningful communication from spirit in the early stages of development through guided meditations. It's not the best way. And I guarantee you that a good proportion is going to be your own mind. It's the most common meditation in the world to go and meet your guide, but so much of it is not real. So much of it is imagination driven. Because, if you haven't developed the ability to perceive spirit and communication from spirit well, how are you going to do it? It's going to be hard, isn't it? So you may see an image of a guide. That's possible. But for you to get meaningful communication from them, if you've not learned to do mediumship, think about it. It's not going to happen. So I personally, whilst we do those sorts of exercises, we do guided meditations to help people unfold their awareness, to help unfold clairvoyance, to help unfold clairsentience, to help with hearing noises and feeling things. But generally, it's not going to drive mediumship. It's helping to unfold the psychic senses. But the way you develop mediumship is by actually doing practice mediumship sessions in circles, classes, courses, etc. Usually one-to-one, you get paired up with somebody, you make a link for them, you ask for one of their loved ones, and you need the validation in real time from them. I have a video on my channel, again, whose name escapes me. It's getting embarrassing now, isn't it? I can't remember the names of my videos. I think it is 7 tips or 10 tips for mediumship. And the first tip is you can't do mediumship without somebody in front of you. That's the key thing to recognize. You can't do mediumship without somebody in front of you. So that's the way I would recommend you try and practice it. But even when we're doing mediumship, how do we differentiate between it coming from spirit and our own imagination? And that's hard. And what we need to do is sitting in the power where we quieten our mind, we silence our mind. We just learn not to look for anything and we let the thoughts of our mind spring up and we allow them to quiet. By learning to quiet your mind, what you find happens is that when you do mediumship, you've learned to quieten your mind, and then whatever appears, it's not your imagination. But if your mind is forever pinging all over the place like a monkey mind, then yes, it's going to be hard. It is going to be hard. So definitely in the early stages, is it me or is it my imagination? And the truth is, it's spirit using your imagination, generally, because that is the part of us that connects with spirit. That part of the subconscious mind that's responsible for imagination, that works with imagery, that works with feelings, that has a knowing. That's what spirit use. So if you like, spirit are using your imagination. We've just got to learn to quieten our minds so it's not our own subconscious mind creating the information. So I hope that helps. I've gone into a slightly different angle of that, but I'm hoping it helps. Peter Mavis, that sounds very interesting. Tell us more. I hope I've just told you a little bit more about the affirmation Mavis said. Of course, Mavis was a wonderful teacher who's now passed to spirit. There are loads of videos of Mavis that is shared by Jean on the Mavis Facebook page. Highly recommend that. She was a wonderful soul. Great worker for spirit. Definitely one of our great mediums. Okay, next question. Axis, thank you for answering my question. Really helpful. Love what you do. I will watch the video after this Q&A. Much appreciated. You're very welcome. Debbie, do we have to download your courses onto our computer or do we get a link we can keep using? So the way it works is for these 8 courses, you get a download link so you can download them to your computer. If you don't want to do downloads, they also come with a link to stream them, to be able to watch them. But you can just click on the links in an email, just click on the link and you can watch it. You can go back to that email and click on the link as often as you like. But if you want to have a copy as well on your local computer, you can do the download as well. Now with these videos here, the 24 videos I offer, they're all downloads. So when you buy it, you get the download link. So download it to your local machine and then you can watch it. Same with the study program. Again, it's download links to download locally onto your machine to keep using it. Now, if anybody, the way I work with all my teachings is if you buy it, you own it. I don't rent it to you for a year. I don't give it you for 3 months. If you bought it, it's yours for life. If your computer blows up, contact me. I'll send you a new link. If what happened, my old store was on a company called Cells. They were bought out by Amazon. And all the links were created through the store. And all of a sudden I got a message to say that it's all closing down. You've got to transfer your store, which I did. But sadly, after another couple of months, all the download links stopped working. So if you've got download links that no longer work, contact me and I will send you new links. For me, when you bought something, you've got a right to access it. Absolutely. So hopefully that all makes sense. I know I've done my courses myself in the past where you've got access to the content for a little while, then it just disappears into the ether and you've got no way of seeing it again. And for me, that's renting. That's renting something to someone for 3 months, 6 months, a year. And that doesn't sit well with me. If you want to buy, if you're buying it on a DVD or a CD, you'd get it to keep. It should be the same electronically. So hopefully that all makes sense to you. And if you really have problems accessing it, contact me and we'll see what we can do, find ways of you being able to access it. At some stage, I will seek to make all the study program modules streamable as well. It's work in progress at the moment. Debbie, what a great idea to have affirmations. Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for giving your time and knowledge. It's my pleasure, and thank you for your super chat. Mavis was indeed wonderful. So have we come to the end of the questions? It appears we have. It generally runs for about an hour and a quarter or an hour and a half tops. So unless we have any more questions. Peter, you helped me achieve a tremendous breakthrough today. That's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, and this work is a series of cumulatively building, but every now and again we get things that give us insights and breakthroughs. I remember reading an article from the late medium Helen Hughes, who was a fabulous medium. In my Great Mediums of the Past course, let me just tell you about that. In my Great Mediums of the Past course, I talk about the 5 mediums who most inspire me: Gordon Higginson, Estelle Roberts, Helen Hughes, Harry Edwards, and Maurice Barbanel. And with Helen Hughes, one thing she talked about was she was known as Helen of Love. And whenever she worked, people could feel the love emanating from her. And she gave the most amazing mediumship links. And that was a bit of that dropped in my head. And I thought, I wonder if when we're standing on platform and we're working, we try and project and emanate love. When we're sitting in the power, if we try and radiate out love when we're blending with spirit, it helps both. It helps your mediumship. If we can work and bring love into our mediumship, it will take your mediumship to a new level. Mediumship is not solely the mechanics. It's a reunion founded upon love, founded upon friendship. 2 people coming together who knew each other in this life, who care about each other, who have bonds of love or bonds of friendship. And friendship is a form of love. So all of that underpins mediumship. Mediumship is about love. It's about healing. When we can try and bring that into our mediumship, you'll see huge results. That was a real breakthrough for me. And I went back and redid my version of Sitting in the Power to bring more love into it, because I just realized it's needed. It will make a big difference. So if you purchase my Sit in the Power or listen to one online on YouTube, you'll see that I mention love within it. Certainly the longer one, we focus on love a little bit more. So I hope that all of that helps. So I hope you got a lot from today's class. I do hope you've enjoyed it. And as I say, remember to subscribe to the channel to get notified of when I run these lives. I normally send out an email as well to those on my email list. So if you're not on my email list, you can subscribe. and you get notification at least 24 hours in advance of when the live's taking place. As I say, you can sign up on the channel, subscribe, and hit the all notifications, and you'll be notified as well when I'm on. And I'm hopefully going to add a couple more videos to the channel coming up soon. So good to see you all. Thanks for coming. I look forward to seeing you all again in the next one, or anytime you can make it. And in the meantime, do check out the channel and do check out the videos. And if you're interested, check out my courses, video study program. Bye for now. Take care, everybody.